Next speaker is Dr. Himanshu Sinha. So it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Himanshu Sinha. So he is faculty in the Initiative for Biological Systems Engineering and also the Department of Biotechnology here at IIT Madras. He obtained his PhD from Cambridge University and has postdocs from Duke University Medical Center in Embel, Germany. And his research varies from population genetics of yeast, including and gene environment interactions using systems biology approaches, to reanalyzing big data sets. And today he's going to talk about an India specific clinical data set using machine learning tools. So this particular session has been a diverse set of tools, one on applications of machine learning as well as model based prediction. So I hope you enjoy this next talk. And so, Himanshu, the stage is yours, and a pleasure to have you speak here. Yeah. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mani. Am I audible?
Yes, I can
Okay.
see your
Thank you,
screen
Mani.
also.
Yeah. Thank you, Mani, and the organizers for inviting me to present this work. So this work is a very brand new work. We started in our lab about a year ago in collaboration with Translational Health Sciences Technology Institute, Faridabad. So as the title says, we are trying to develop an India's population-specific model to determine the age of a fetus in pregnancy. And what I'll try to describe today is why there's a need for that, and how does an India model behave compared to established models that have been used in India for like crores of babies that are born every year in India. So why this dating is required now? To date a baby, that is what is called fetal age or a gestational age, is to actually it's done by two methods. One is to ask the mother what was her last menstrual period, and you can use a simple formula to calculate the age of the baby, or you can use ultrasound, which is a very common method in pregnancies, to do an ultrasound of a pregnant mother to figure out the fetal size, which helps determine the uh, age of the baby. Now, why there is a need for that? The accurate determination of gestational age is important because we want to monitor and schedule all the care that is required for a developing fetus, which could be whether the fetus is developing normally, whether the mother, which who is in the first trimester, would not be allowed to take certain drugs or toxins or alcohol consumption, and also to schedule future visits to the hospital. Several clinical decisions actually depend on accurate measurement of gestational age. For example, determining maternal health, like how to monitor. For example, one of the things that is done in second trimester is a gestational diabetic test, OTT, GTT test. So that's one of the things that is to be scheduled. When abortion is to be done, if it is to be done, that has a legal limit. So we need to know exactly what is the gestational age, and any in utero intervention that needs to be done also requires this thing. And most importantly, it is also important for the outcome when the baby is born, whether the baby is full term, whether the baby is late term, or more importantly, which is the focus of this talk, is the baby preterm. Now, why preterm birth is important to study? Preterm birth is important because, especially in India, we have about 3.6 million babies who are born uh, annually as preterm, of which a large proportion die at birth because they are too underdeveloped to survive outside the uterus. And and even if they do survive, you can see that there are several disabilities that they have which are lifelong disabilities. So it is very important, especially to achieve WHO's landmarks for child health, to have first reduce preterm if possible, if and also to understand what are the reasons behind why India is one of the higher rates of preterm, as you can see in the chart given on the left side. So to study this, there was a DBT funded project that was initiated in 2015, and that project is being currently carried out by Translation Health Sciences and Technology Institute, THSTI. The name of the study is called Garbhini, which stands for Interdisciplinary Group for Advanced Research in Birth Outcomes, DBT India Initiative. And as you can see from the panel on the side, it is a longitudinal study. That means pregnant women are recruited in the first trimester, and are followed throughout the pregnancy and once after the baby is born. And there are several visits that are done, that are scheduled for these pregnant women. During those visits, several biospecimens are taken, including blood samples. And then there are ultrasound measurements that are done on these women, which are covered by this study. So the study site is in north of India, Gurgaon or Gurugram. It's being carried out at civil hospital there, and it covers a local population of about 750 square kilometers, which includes both urban and semi-urban women. Until date, about 7,200 women have been enrolled in the study, and we need to achieve about 8,000 women. So it's still an ongoing study. Now, as you can see, there are several visits that a woman is having throughout her pregnancy, and that leads to 4 classes of features that is getting collected for every woman, and these total number to around 1900. They include socio-demographic features, which include maternal age, education, economic status, whether smoking or alcohol in consumption. Most importantly, ultrasound characteristics, which are required for measuring gestational age, as I just mentioned, any morphological or anomalies that are there in the fetus, and also to just ensure that the fetus is developing fine. There are several obstetric details that are also measured: how many children that the woman already has, what is the interval between them, were there any preterm babies that were born, were there any miscarriages. So all of these information is also being collected for every woman. And then obviously certain clinical characteristics, which include maternal blood pressure, blood samples, hemoglobin, and all those all these standard measurements that are done on these pregnant women. So as you can see, this data is actually, thanks to THSTI's scrupulous data collection, it's a very high quality data with high accuracy and completeness, which is one of the very important things when you try to do any data analysis, especially clinical data analysis. So as you probably know, pregnancy is divided into 3 trimesters. First trimester is between 0 to 13, 14 weeks. Second trimester is 14 to 28 weeks, and 28 weeks afterwards till delivery is the third trimester. So dating methods vary based on each of the trimester. So what we will now I'll try to do is to describe what did we do for dating fetuses in the first trimester, and then I'll come to the second trimester, which is currently ongoing study. So as I already mentioned, it's between 0 and 13 weeks. And here the fetus is not much developed. There is only one ultrasound measurement that is done, which is called crown rump length, which is the distance between the top of the head to the bottom of the butt, which is called the rump of a fetus. And this linear measurement is the only measurement that we measure at the first trimester. And the other thing that we can do in the first trimester is to ask a woman what was her last menstrual period. And that date allows you to actually also determine independently what is the age of the fetus, because this is the closest date to the last menstruation. So using these 2 data points, we try to develop a model that will help us predict or estimate the gestational age of a fetus. So how is it done in India? So obviously there is an ultrasound machine, and a radiologist would do a ultrasound. And most radiologists in India, actually almost all radiologists in India, apply a formula which was developed by Hadlock. And here's a paper in 1992, which was based on a model, which was based on the data for white Caucasian women who were in a very, very defined age group. So as you can see, this is a very, very specific population on which the model was built. Now, as we already know from various studies from across the clinical and genetic studies, that populations vary. And if populations vary, therefore there obviously is a point to make that gestational age determination formula should also vary. And that is true, because after 1992 Hadlock's formula, several countries, including Australia, UK, China, Netherlands, and the latest one being Intergrowth, which is multiple populations across, I think, 20 countries, they have developed their specific formulae, right? And all of these formulae, as you can see, they are based on the crown rump length only, and there are a variety of different formulae. So what was surprising to us when we first got this data was that there is no India specific formula, and we are the second most populous country in the world, and we are using a formula based out of US. So to ensure that there is no discrepancy in the estimation of gestational age between a population in India versus a model based out of US, we decided to try building one India specific formula. And I'll just describe the few results that we got from there. So at this graph, which is a very simple graph, which on the y-axis you have gestational age based on the US based formula and minus the gestational age based on last menstrual period. And this is a recall based method. That means you have to depend on the memory of the woman to tell what was her last menstrual period. And this is the mean of the two, right? This is called Bland-Altman analysis, which is very common in clinical data analytics. And as you can see, the gray area is a 95% confidence interval, but there are several women participants whose data points are beyond the 95. So that means there is a lot of noise. And one thing that is pretty sure is that a Hadlock-based or US model-based formula is not able to capture this kind of noise. So in order to sort of simpler, like in reduce the noise a bit, what we tried to do is we removed wherever there was any doubt that the last menstrual period recall is not accurate. There are several factors that were associated with fetal growth restriction, which could reduce the size of the crown rump length and therefore change the gestational age. Those all factors were removed, but this distribution did not change much. So there was obviously, this data was telling us there is this need to develop an India specific formula. So what we did was we tried to filter the data in a manner that would allow us to create post facto a subpopulation out of these women who had been enrolled. This was like 3,500 women, and find a subset of women for whom we had the highest confidence of data, what the crown rump length data, as well as the last menstrual period data. So when we did that, we ended up with around 2,500 women. And as you can see here, again, there was a lot of noise in the data. And there were two ways of doing it. One way was to use clinical based parameters, which we discussed with the clinicians at PHSTI. And they gave us a list of parameters saying if these values are above or below these things, you exclude them. And we did that. And you can still see here that the distribution is still noisy. So we went to a algorithm which is based on DBSCAN. We can go into more details later, but DBSCAN is a density-based algorithm which allows you to remove data points based on the noise around that one particular data point. So as you can see, after we applied that, most of the blank circles which are around outside this cluster at the middle were removed. And this gave us a high confidence data, which we then used for our further analysis. So we also, because as I said, there were 1,900 parameters, but for the first trimester, we had around 100 different parameters. In order to figure out which are the parameters which are most important in determining gestational age, we used two methods. One was a random forest method. Baruta is a wrapper around this algorithm, and a generalized linear model. And obviously, the most important feature was crown rump length, which we're already including, but there were certain other features which could have helped in giving a better estimate of gestation age, which included BMI of a mother or abdominal girth or age of a mother. There were few ridiculous features like state of residence in India and education of mother. So we sort of ignored that. So we went with what's called a brute force modeling selection method, where you take all of these features and permute different combinations of these methods of log, square root, and just linear, and see if you can get a formula which would help you explain the maximum variation in the data. And when we did that, what we identified was that whenever CRL was not a feature, the formula actually did not really work well at all. And only when CRL was there, it worked. So that showed that CRL was the most important, and crown rump length was the most important feature for first trimester dating. And we did linear, quadratic, and cubic formulae, generated these three different kind of formulae. And as you can see, when you use dbScan filtered data, which is this one, you get a very high R square value. When you use clinically filtered data, you get a poor value because of the fact that there are these noisy data points around the center. So ultimately, we, based on the R square and RMSE analysis of large number of brute force formula generated formulae, we came to this quadratic formula, which is gestational age in weeks, is given by this quadratic equation. And as you can see, this formula performs pretty similar to the various formulae that I mentioned earlier, which were from across the world. So this is the formula that is given here, which is called Garbhini 1 formula. So this is Garbhini 1 formula. And this is the original Hadlock formula, which was being used by most radiologists in India. And this was true whether you use the main data set, dbScan data set, or a clinically filtered data set. And when we tested it in a data which was unseen by this formula, it's performed equally similar to other formulae that were previously published. So that was a bummer because we expected our formula to perform better, but that's how it was. But what was very satisfying for us, that when you now use Garbhini formula to predict the preterm rate or the preterm birth rate, this is the preterm birth rate estimated by only using the last menstrual period data. This is the preterm birth rate estimated by using Hadlock, which is around 14.5 or something. And this is the preterm rate determined by Garbhini 1 formula. So there is already a 2% drop in the estimation of preterm birth, which is very important because we would not classify a baby preterm uselessly, because when you classify baby preterm, several things have to be done, and those need not be done. And what was also surprising for us, that these are the two main methods, LMP and Hadlock, and they have almost like random. If you ask which of the fetuses are preterm, which of the babies are not preterm, they're actually half and half. So half of the babies that are born would be classified as preterm by LMP. Half of the other ones would be classified as preterm by Hadlock. So therefore, there is obviously a need to use Garbhini 1 formula to do classification of preterm birth, because that would help in reducing the load on clinicians to do unnecessary clinical interventions on a baby that is probably full term. And this was also true when used in the test data set. So just to end first trimester data analysis, we have developed is Indian population specific formula Garbhini 1. It has similar performance as other formula that have been published previously, but has the highest sensitivity and balance accuracy in classifying preterm birth. There was few other measures that were supposed to be important, but they did not improve the efficiency. And this paper is already on medRxiv and is being submitted to a journal for publication. But what happens in low and middle income countries, countries like India, majority of the women first visit to hospital is usually in the second trimester. And that's only when they know that they're pregnant. So second trimester is more complicated than first trimester. As I said, first trimester was just CRL, one linear measure. Here you have a fetus that has developed further. So you have a well-defined head, so you can measure the head circumference, long and short diameter of a head, of the ellipse of the head. Then you can measure the abdominal circumference, and you can also measure the femur, which is the longest bone in the body. This is the first one to be ossified. So which one, like calcified, so you can measure that. And then we also took two other features, which is the symphyofundal height, which is the distance between the top of the uterus to the pubic bone, and the cervical length, which is also a factor in important factor in preterm birth determination. So as you can see, this is not a simple linear, it's not going to be a simple mono single factor formula. It would be slightly more complicated than that. So we had to apply different methods. So only to ensure that we are using something which is standardized, we only considered those women who had their scans in the first trimester as well, because the accuracy of determination of dating is most accurate in first trimester, and later trimesters, there are several confounding factors like mother's nutrition, fetal growth restriction, which can change the measurements that I just described in the previous slide. So we had a large number of participants, with 6,500, but we had to remove 4,000, almost 4,200 participants, because they did not enroll themselves in the first trimester. So we ended up with about 1,800 participants, which we split into test and validation sets. So as I said, this was more complicated. There were about, I think, if I'm not wrong, more than 200 features that were there. We again ran the two methods, random forest and GLM, and identified that majority of the ultrasound features, which are biparietal diameter, head circumference, occipital frontal, these are all the head measurements. This is abdominal circumference and the femur length. They're all very important in all of these. The two other features that we considered were also important. And one of the other things that came up was diastolic blood pressure of the mother, which also was included. So this shows the correlation between various features. The most importantly, all the head features are highly correlated, which you can see here. And then these blood pressure measurements are also correlated because they are measured from the same, they are interrelated in one way. So again, in this time, we actually used 4 different methods, and I'll just quickly browse through the 4 methods without going into too much detail, because this is work in progress. So for brute force formula, we only use the ultrasound parameters. As of now, we haven't included the other 2 features, BPH and CL. And therefore, we were only able to test 104 formulae, and the R-square values range from 0.4 to 0.65. And so this was one of the formula that was generated, and I'll come to that in a bit. We also did principal component regression, which is a method to actually identify the most important features. And here we actually took all the 11 features, which included SFH and CL and all the blood pressure measurements. And what you can see from this graph is that from PCA analysis, it was pretty clear to us that only 2 of the features are important, and we can actually explain a large amount or majority of the variance using just 2 features, and we'll come to that in a bit. And finally, then we applied neural network modeling, where we had 5 input layers, 5 hidden layers, and 5 output layers. And here again, when you do the iterations with a 70-30 split of the data, you identify that the maximum R-square value, which you can achieve, is around 0.65, 0.7. So that was something that was also a model that we could work with. And finally, we use random forest method, and here again 11 features were used. The way it works is that it would allow us to see which are the most important features. And as you can see, this is femur length, head perimeter, and occipital frontal diameter, which are all the 3 major ultrasound features. There were a few other features from ultrasound, and then rest of the features follow after that. So this was a model that was also built on which we could test. So I'll just quickly give you the brief results that we got. So this is the distribution of errors in the training data set, which was used to build these models. And as you can see, majority of these models actually work pretty fine. This is Intergrowth 21, which is the latest model, which was published in 2019. And as you can see from your R-square values here, the Hadlock is 0.63, Intergrowth is 0.628. The Gerbeny 2 formula, which is for the second trimester, performs slightly better, at least the brute force and neural network. And random forest was pretty good, but I think this is because of some overfitting. because if you test these same formulae on the test set, which is not seen by when we are developing these formulae, they all follow sort of the similar pattern. Again, with random forest being slightly better than the other formulae that we generated or the previously published formulae. And as you can see, gestational age formula from Hadlock is this formula. This has reported R square value of 0.98, which is ridiculously high. Intergrowth also has a very high 0.97 R square value. So it was pretty clear that the Indian population was behaving slightly differently from the populations that were used to develop the other two formulae. And again, most importantly for us, preterm birth rate prediction for all of the formulae that we generated, these are all the Gerbeny 2 formulae, they were lower than the intergrowth predicted estimates or the Hadlock predicted estimates. Here, Hadlock is around 15%, and we are averaging around 11.5, 12%, which again is a huge reduction in the preterm birth rate, which could be very clinically important for the baby once it's born. And what was very satisfying to us that the gold standard, which was the first trimester dating, was also similar to the Gerbeny 2 formulae predicted rates. And this was true both for the training set and the models when we tested them on the test data set. So again, both the first term and second trimester dating formulae actually helped in allowing us to maybe measure more accurately the preterm birth rate. So as I said, this is a work in progress. We only have used USG features, which have shown to be the highest importance. The random forest method is most accurate. We'll still fiddle with it to do various optimizations to see if we can avoid overfitting. And most importantly for us, the preterm classification was more accurate than the Hadlock formula, which is the standard formula used in India. Now, so what are the future work? So as I said, we haven't used SFH, simple fundal height, cervical length. Maybe that will help in improving our regression values. We also know that the second and third trimester ultrasound data is pretty similar. The features that are measured are pretty similar. So if we combine both the first and second trimester data, maybe we'll get a more accurate gestational age model. And because there is no difference in the features that are estimated in both the trimesters, it might be useful generally for the second and third trimester. And this can be, once you've developed this formula, you can prospectively use this formula and see whether it works or not. One of the advantages of using a random forest model that it can be trained in real time. So as the data comes in, we can feed in more data and maybe it will get better over time. And so this is a potential that random forest model has. And obviously, because it's a random forest method, it cannot be something that you can just punch in numbers and it'll get your gestational age. There is therefore a potential to develop an application or an app that can be given to clinicians where they just enter the feature values, and in the background, the random forest model works and gives you the gestational age, which would be more accurate than any model that is either linear or non-linear. So why do we need to develop this model? So the reason to develop this model is to determine the preterm birth, right? And the main purpose of Gerbeny cohort study is to predict the preterm risk. And that is one of the major outcomes that is expected out of a Gerbeny cohort. So as I said, preterm is a birth which happens before 37 weeks. So if the baby is delivered before 37 weeks, it's called preterm. After 37 weeks is full term. So the ultimate goal for our study is to develop a model which would allow us to stratify women early enough, either in the first trimester or in the second trimester, to give them a risk of what is the risk of their baby being delivered preterm. Now, this can have very important clinical implications, because while the model will not be able to help in figuring out what can be done, but at least it would be able to tell the woman that you are a high risk. And if you are a high risk, there are certain interventions that can be done, which the woman can take to reduce the risk of preterm birth, or if the risk is not reduced by certain clinical interventions, at least she can be close to a tertiary care hospital where a preterm baby can be taken care of. Because if she is in the rural setting, it might not be possible for that preterm baby to survive very long in that rural setting. So this is the ultimate goal, and this is therefore for us to develop an India specific model for gestational age determination, which we, as I described today, allows us to better and more accurately predict gestational age and therefore reduce preterm birth risk, would allow us to build better models which would help us stratify women early enough. So for this, we will be using various machine learning approaches once we start developing this. So as I said, first step was to build models for gestational age. So I think that's the end of my talk. I like to acknowledge THSTI for actually initiating this collaboration, especially Dr. Shinjini Bhatnagar, who heads this Gerbini cohort and is the principal investigator for that cohort, and two brilliant clinicians at THSTI, Dr. Ram and Dr. Kondi, who also help us a lot. They actually are the real people who run behind Gerbini cohort and have been very helpful in giving us all the data. Obviously, the Gerbini cohort is run by a large team of administrative people, clinicians, doctors, and nurses, both at Gurugram Civil Hospital, Safdarjung, and AIIMS. So without them, we would not have gotten this very sort of complete and accurate data. And finally, coming to IIT Madras, thanks to Professor Raghu, who's a professor at chemical engineering, for his insights into data analysis, and three dual degree project students, Ashley, Nikita, and Ramya, whose work I described today. And finally, to Gerbini participants, without these 7,200 or maybe more, it's being stopped for a while because of the corona pandemic. Gerbini participants who have willingly come and gone through all these measurements and allowed us to use their data. And as you can see here are the data files in the storeroom at Gurugram Hospital. And these are various visits that these pregnant women are being measured, various parameters are being measured for. Obviously, the funding without funding, this kind of cohort study cannot be done, and Department of Biotechnology funded THSTI for running the Gerbini cohort. The collaboration between THSTI and IIT Madras is from BIRAC and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for doing the data analytics of the Gerbini cohort. So thanks very much for your attention, and I'll take any questions.
So thanks, Himanshu, for the great talk. So, I mean, what is impressive is that India is about 18% of the world's population, and this is the first time we have such a data set and such models for predicting fetal age. And so some of the questions, if I were to ask, maybe again, we don't have time for too many questions, but the main question I see was, why is there a difference between Hadlock and the Gerbini model, the India-based model? If I were to parse it myself, is it due to the data set being unique, or is it due to different methods being applied beyond linear regression, which was used in Hadlock?
Couple of things. Populations are different. So as I said, Hadlock model was built on a white Caucasian population, which was aged around mid 25, like 25 years of age. So all the women were 25 years of age. Here we have a more divergent population. And also the population is genetically very different from that Caucasian population. And again, this is like a study based on a cohort that was not that was not collected for measuring gestational age, whereas Hadlock only did analysis for the purpose of developing the gestational age formula. So that could be one. Secondly, we probably are using more data analytic tools than what he did, and we are trying to clean as I showed, that clinical filtering actually did not help much, whereas when you don't use clinical filters and use data driven tools like DBScan, you get a better sort of less noise in the data. So maybe that is another factor. And third could be different methods that we have used. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Himanshu. So yeah, other questions are in the windows. I would request you to go through them and answer them as appropriate in the interest of time. So let's
Okay.
just move on to the next speaker. Thanks, Himanshu.